Okay, I'd like to call this Finance Committee meeting to order. First item on the agenda is assignment of request for council action. We have several for finance. 1526, expenditure over 15,000, Medina Metropolitan Housing. 1527, expenditure over 15,000, software solutions for the finance. 1528, budget amendment. 1529, accepting 3 easements, residential drainage program number 974E. 1530, accepting easement, Wadsworth Road, water main number 955. 1531, expenditure over 15,000, HD Supply Waterworks. And 1532, payment over 3,000, HD Supply Waterworks. Item 2 on the agenda has been pulled for this meeting. It'll be on next meeting in 2 weeks. 1527, expenditure over $15,000 for the software solutions. Who's this one?
The year prior amount is listed on there. It's gone up, but not, it's a little under 5%. This is the software that handles our finance.
Okay. Questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 1528, we have a budget amendment. We have 2015 reduction in fire capital.
This was an expenditure that was going to be this year, but it was taken care of last year, so we need to pull it out of the budget because we can't spend it twice.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 1529, accepting 3 easements for Eastgate Drainage Program. Pat?
Thank you. This is a project that was approved as part of our residential drainage program to install a storm sewer backyard area, Eastgate Drive and Gates Mills, where there's continual flooding. These are the private property, so these are the 3 easements from the property owners.
Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 1530, accepting 1 easement for Wadsworth Road water main. Pat?
This is a project actually already under construction. We get 5 or 6 easements. This is when we had trouble just getting hold of the property owners, but we did.
Questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're gonna be done before we start here. 1531, expenditure over 15,000, HD Supply Waterworks. Who's this one? Neil?
That's me. Thank you, Mr. President. HD is where we buy our parts, pieces for water repair, water main breaks, clamps, pipe fittings, hydrant replacement, things of that nature. And because the expenditure was at Border Patrol has gone over 15, needs to come before you.
Questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. And the last one, 1532, is pulled till next meeting. There's some changes that need to occur on that. With that said, is there anything else that needs to become from council? I think one thing we wanted to get an update on today was the meeting at the advisory council for the CPF. I'm not sure what they're called, but
Policy Waste Committee.
Policy Waste Committee that Nino attended, and I guess he can give us an update and what's the status?
Thank you, Mr. President. I can do that briefly. I think most of the council members are aware of the discussions that have been going on between the cities, Brunswick, Wadsworth, and Medina, and with the county with respect to CPF and the future of the same. Having said that, I attended the Solid Waste Policy Committee today. A lot of discussion, I mean, to go back, has been about the plan and the proposed plan for the solid waste district. It's being proposed that I guess we're not entirely, I know for a fact we're not entirely happy with. There's some items in there, tip fees, the debt retirement on the building at the solid waste facility, as well as having a voice going forward.
Well, I think one of the major issues had to deal with what we spoke about is the recycling.
Correct.
And correct me if I'm wrong, there was 130,000 tons that delivered and went through the CPF, and there was only 4,000 tons of recycling,
Correct.
which is about 3% of all the trash that went there was recycled. And we were paying $61 a ton for really no recycling. And I think the public believes that the CPF is there to recycle and has been recycling all their trash, which it clearly has not. So I think that's some of our issue with the three cities, is that we're kind of frustrated with the fact that we're paying all this money for no recycling, pretty much. And that was kind of the impetus of this whole process, is why we're paying so much money and we're not getting any recycling. So, I'm sorry.
No, you're right. No, that's a very important piece. So going forward, this plan has been drafted, there's been a lot of discussion going back and forth, and the plan needed to be voted on, or at least passed from the Policy Waste Committee, and then a resolution thereafter from the commissioners to go to a comment period. And this comment period will be from March 2nd through March 31st. And it's where there'll be public hearings, meetings where the public can comment, and I believe they have to be in writing. So then there's a timeline going forward where the county would like to have this plan voted on by June. So they're on a strict timeline. At the same time, these issues need to be resolved. And again, maybe they will not be resolved by the time. So the three cities, Wadsworth, Medina, and specifically Brunswick, may vote this plan down.
And just to clarify for everybody, Brunswick has the ultimate power. The Ohio Revised Code permits that even if all jurisdictions vote in favor of the plan, if Brunswick votes no, it fails.
Because of their census?
Because of the largest city in the county has veto power to deny the plan. Now, that is very helpful because we believe that there's issues that need to be addressed in the plan, and thus far through our discussions, the mayor's been involved with, we really haven't had movement. The movement we had was that they've agreed to maybe set up an advisory committee that gives, recommendations to the county commissioners, which they may or may not adopt, which doesn't really satisfy us, because they already have the Policy Waste Committee that kind of does that, and that hasn't been happening either. So I think we have some legitimate concerns as three cities, of which the townships and villages should also have the same concern, I would imagine, that, we're paying for something we're not getting. And I think, Bill, you brought up some of the factual information onto the delivery of the CPF. I mean, it's no surprise that half of the trash that goes to the CPF is never recycled. It goes directly to the landfill. One half. So only half the trash in the county that goes to the CPF is ever even looked at. So, I mean, these are serious concerns that we have, and we hope that the townships and the villages also have these same concerns, because we're not getting what we paid for.
And the other part is, Mr. President, if I may, we were paying $61.75 per ton for that inbound trash. Well, now that they have a temporary permit from the OEPA to operate as a transfer station only, we're taking our trash there, we're depositing on the floor, and then the contractor's picking it up and taking it to the landfill directly without going through, without processing. We're still paying. They've reduced the tip fees from $61.75 to $57, and our argument has been, we'd like to see it even lower than that in the interim until you do figure out which direction you're going to, and they haven't acquiesced to that.
Well, and they did provide us with a breakdown of what it currently costs, and it was like $44.50.
43, it was $44.90.
$44.90. Oh, 95. Okay, so $45. So there's still, what is that, $12 that is sitting out there that we could be having back to the cities or the townships or whomever's involved. And it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to reduce the rate right away, but it does mean that there's additional funds there to help run your operations.
No, meanwhile, we
Buy a
were
new truck.
canceling POs
Right.
at the end of last year, Keith, remember, so we could make ends meet in sanitation fund.
And there's, I believe we were indicated that there's $1.2 million in a reserve fund currently at the CPF, but there's still debt of $600,000 on the facility.
I want to mention on our rates, we've had kind of held off on rate increases.
Right.
Because we knew this was coming. We didn't know exactly what was coming, but we didn't want to put in a big rate increase and then get a big reduction and give it back. It looks like we haven't planned very well, so we were trying to hold off to see what happens. So if it does come down, I don't think that's going to mean a rate reduction on our end. I think it's just going to mean that we're going to be okay where we are.
All right, because we have some capital needs we have to save for and whatnot, and, long-term is what we're really concerned about. What really should the CPF tipping fees be? How much recycling do we really expect to get out of the county? And hopefully, our expectations and aspirations are pretty high with recycling, because I think everybody in the county wants to recycle. And I think everybody in the county believes recycling's happening. And I think that's a little disservice to everybody if they really believe that recycling's happening.
John, why is it
currently.
not happening?
Because of the information we've been receiving. I have no idea. One of the information that we received is because of the previous contract only required a certain number to be recycled.
6%, I thought.
This is the previous contract.
13%.
revision?
Yes, and I think it was 13 or 14%. So if they reach that number, there's no incentive to recycle more.
Well, if it's $44 a ton tipping fee right now, today, why are we being charged 57?
Because we were told that we were going to be charged 57.
Isn't it though,
Well, aren't
because we're
they-
dumping it, we're
Owned
dumping
by the
it?
county commissioners?
Right.
Yes,
So
correct.
they make that decision themselves?
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
With no explanation as to why the additional money? Where's the additional money going?
At, the CPF district is an enterprise fund, just like our sanitation and water. So the money's going into that fund for some purpose, but there's no identified purpose at this time.
So when you multiply this out in a year, in terms of tonnage, how many thousands of dollars does that come out to?
1.4 million.
million.
So that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
So simply because, okay, so we're paying $12 more a ton than we
The
would have.
papers haven't gotten onto this,
If we-
done anything about this issue in terms of investigation. That's
a great point, Greg, great point.
It's not
We're
my
paying
meeting, but it could be.
$12 more a ton because we're dumping it on the floor at the CPF.
Well, it's $30 a ton right now, just to keep things operating, 25 of which is to pay for the dropping at the landfill. So it's $30 right now, but it went to 45 because of the cost of the containers for the specific locations throughout the county. That's the cost to
For
operate that,
recycling.
for recycling. That program, there was a couple other things
There's
that
a
were.
state fee of $4.75 per ton that goes to the EPA, or the reference to the
Right.
state fee. Again, that comes to $44.90.
Has their cost, meaning CPF or the county's cost, has it increased because now they're taking such a high percentage to landfills?
So it's lessened, that's.
Gone down, because they don't have
They're
the
paying-
labor inside to go through it.
Now, this all applies just for the cities. Every township in Medina County doesn't get any direction on this. In other words, I'm in York Township. I have to hire C. Martin personally to have trash picked up. So all the townships, they don't, this is all happening with respect to the city's trash, right?
Well, it happens all throughout the county, and I remember, you as a township resident, if the tipping fees go down in a free market, your rates should go down also, because now there'll be
From your
more
private
competition.
hauler.
From the
Right.
private hauler.
Right,
Your rate should be lower if the tipping fee is lower.
But it starts with us.
right.
Yes, because we're the ones that really have the, at least Brunswick and the cities have the ability to try to make this change occur, so everybody's represented fairly.
So a couple points of clarification. We asked for one more thing, and that was that they not have any more capital improvements without some agreement of the cities, because we're the major. So it's those three things: tip fees, debt, and capital improvements. Pat McNamara, who's representing the city of Brunswick because it's the most populous, voted against the plan. The other members voted for the plan. So now we're going to go through this process of public input, although apparently input doesn't have much influence on the county commissioners, because we've given them a lot of input and they have seen, well, I shouldn't say we haven't seen any movement. What they did is create what Mr. Coyne was talking about, an advisory board to tell them what we think again, but then it's still their choice whether to do it or not. So I think, I talked, Mr. Huber spent most of this weekend researching the law, the processes, possible recourses that the city may have. And Nino's been involved with the other two service directors and the councils and the administrations. I think our next step is going to be to get the three cities together and put together a fact sheet to then meet with the press representatives, because clearly the public has no idea what's going on here. They think that the cities are maybe squabbling with the county. A lot of the public feels, as we do, there should be recycling, but have no idea that the belts are shut off and everything's going to landfill. So we have to make these points of what have the problems been before, what is going on right now, why they've been overcharging us with no explanation of where these dollars are going. And I think once we get that information out and the public has a better understanding of what is really happening here, that may cause some reflection of the county commissioners to, in our minds, do what's right for all of the county.
What, and I didn't attend these meetings, and I think you guys have explained what's going on. What is the county's reasoning for not?
The reasoning is, we're the Board of County Commissioners, we have the right to do this, and it is what it is.
That's pretty much all they've said in all these meetings.
Right.
They keep
Right.
pointing out that statutorily, they're putting control of it, period.
But statutorily, their actions have to be reasonable.
But they've
Right
not
now,
given any
as I
explanation
understand it,
why
there's
they're
there's
taking
a
that
building that
stance?
was built out there for fuel.
Well, there's equipment, $2 million worth of equipment that was purchased by the users, us,
The district.
and it's sitting there.
For the recycling.
No, it was to
For fuel.
convert the trash into usable diesel fuel, I think it is.
Pellets.
Pellet fuel,
Pellets, energized
So
fuel.
where did the money come from for the $2 million?
on the tipping fees.
District.
The
So
district,
essentially, our money
yes.
built the $2 million facility that is supposed to convert to fuel, and it's
Yes.
not being used. Has it ever been used?
I don't think, operationally, no.
When was it built?
Every year was
I
that.
don't know the year, but it was an addition to the CPF in the back building, in the back side, and it's never functioned entirely.
And
What
is
the
that
plan-
the
what
reason
is
they can't
plan for
retire
this-
the debt?
This equipment and building, in light of the fact that it's been built now?
There's been no plan, in the plan, I guess, there's
There's
been
no
no.
discussion.
No discussion
There's
regarding
no
it.
discussion.
No, no.
So it's $2 million wasted?
Could be,
Yeah.
Is that
And
why
what's
they can't
what's
retire the
happening with
debt?
this new
no,
plan?
because
There's a
they're,
reason why they won't retire the debt.
they don't have to retire the debt, so they won't. Because if they retire the debt, they lose flow control. Which
Right.
means they don't have the right to force everybody to
But
take
where
their
did that
stuff.
debt come from?
They just put it on, they're allowed to put that on anytime they want.
You know, and that was brought up at one of the meetings, but Keith, didn't you say something in reference to paying it off early?
Well, I don't know what exactly they owe, but they can't necessarily just.
620,000.
I'm sorry, I don't know how exactly they owe that. I mean, assuming that's bonds, those aren't necessarily callable, so, I mean, and I just want to, just to explain that, it may not be in their power to pay it off anyway. I mean, if
But they
it's-
want
if
to put
it's-
new debt on for additional 20 years.
Yeah, keep the,
Keith, they have.
That's different.
Keith, they have $1.5 million saved up right now.
They choose
Why
not to
could
do
that
it.
not be applied to the debt right now? There's no, there's no legal reason
if you.
that couldn't be retired in a short order.
If you have bondholders and the bonds aren't callable, you can't necessarily just pay them off and say, okay, we're done, because they.
But we've been at this for 15 years, Keith, that could be planned for.
I'm
Yeah,
not
but
saying
if
it couldn't have
there's
been
a
planned
term-
for in the past. I'm
That's
saying if you decided, and I don't know what exactly is out there, but if they have bonds out there and they decided today, okay, we want to pay those
Yeah,
off,
I understand.
they wouldn't be able to do that
But
necessarily
see, in the
because the bonds
statute
aren't
for the tipping
callable.
fees, those debts are supposed to be planned for to determine the reasonableness of the tipping fee.
Right. But
And it seems like the debt's not been paid off.
Well, the debt's,
But nobody brought up bonds.
Nobody
at
brought
that
up
meeting.
bonds.
They choose
and
not
that-
to.
When Commissioner Friedrich was asked directly, what is the reason you won't use the 1.2 million to pay off the 600,000 you owe? Is it because you don't want the ability of flow control to go away? And he looked at the two, Amy and Beth, to give an answer for it. They looked at him, and he finally conceded, if we pay the debt off, we lose the flow control in the county. And they don't want to lose the flow control in the county.
Because the flow control forces us.
To
Right.
take the trash to
Yes.
the county.
And keeps all of the decisions in the Board of County Commissioners,
right.
which is where some of this rub is. I mean, what we proposed, what I proposed on behalf of the city was, why not set up a controlling board, not for all of the operations, but for these three things that we're concerned with a representative from each of the cities, 2 county commissioners, and then those 5 pick a village and a township rep, or another entity, be it a village or a township, and a private hauler, But we don't want the two commissioners picking the other two, because then they control the board again. I mean, I can't think of a fairer way to do it. We, the three cities, there would be no CPF without the three cities, because, you know, the private haulers are not representing municipalities or anything else, they're representing private customers. And they do not want to give up any of those controls whatsoever, even that limited control for those three things. That's kind of the stalemate that we're in.
So with today's vote is an issue.
Unless we reject the plan.
exactly.
If the plan's
Which
rejected,
means the cities, three cities reject the plan, which,
yes.
But really, it's just Brunswick.
Really, it's just Brunswick.
The rest of us are.
Because if we,
Brunswick's the key.
Brunswick has to.
has to.
Correct.
Has to say no, but then you need 60%.
That's correct.
Including Brunswick. So that's where the other two cities come in.
Right, that's correct.
well, everybody talks about being afraid of dealing with the EPA. The director from the EPA comes in on the backside of this and helps resolve this. But frankly, in dealing with the director for the EPA on a number of other issues, they're very good to work with. You don't have these control issues. They're very easy to work with. I don't think there's a downside to working with the EPA to get this straightened out.
Well, I think somebody brought up the press. You know, I work with two individuals that live in the townships that are eco-friendly. They separate everything. And so they don't, I wouldn't say they're frugal, but so they don't have to pay a private hauler. They separate everything and they drive the three different containers to CPF every week,
To go to the landfill.
thinking,
You know,
thinking that it's all going to be recycled.
Right.
But it's not.
So I don't think that, you know,
Yeah, the
I was-
public has no idea what's.
I was telling
Well,
Nino that I was at church on Sunday when I got back. And exactly what Denny's talking about, I had at least half a dozen people came up to me and said, what's going on with the CPF? They said, we went out on Saturday, and they all said, we separated all our stuff, and we went out to the CPF, and we thought, you know, they thought people were abusing the bins. They said the bins were all overflowing, the stuff was all over the ground, and you couldn't even get it in the bin, but they said it was all mixed up. And they said, who's separating it out? I said, I don't know, I'll check and see. And actually, I went out on Sunday, and the gate was locked. And so I thought, well, maybe I could walk around until the guard came in. And anyways, the guard said to me, he said, oh, no, he said, you don't have to separate it. You just throw it all in the bins, and somebody else separates it. But then I was talking to Nino, apparently these people in town, and that's why I think it's important for the paper, these people are separating their stuff now and taking it out, taking the time not only to separate it, but to take it out and think they're gonna get it recycled, and it's all going to the landfill. And I guess my other question is, if the system that we function under was obligated to recycle 13% of the total, and they didn't, I mean, they never did.
No, well,
Yeah, that's-
They take some of the compost and offset some of the others, Bill.
But if half of what we took out went to the landfill, to a
Absolutely.
transfer truck, and that would leave only half of it, if they did 13%, then it would only be half of that. And then part of that, 2% of that, was material that people took out on their own that was already separated and threw it in the bins. So if the county facility never met the requirements that we were bought into operating under, but then charged us a fee that was in excess of that cost,
Well,
what do you call that?
Well, I guess you're exactly right. Think about the half the trash went directly to the landfill. Remember, we still paid $61 a ton for that, where if it wasn't even touched, they only had to pay $25 a ton to take it to the landfill. So there's that difference of, what is that, $31 a ton that just went right to the bottom line.
But that's what I'm saying. Why is there no accountability for charging for a facility that sorts out to recycle, but it actually, half of it never even went to be recycled, and then there was no way you could meet the 13% threshold, even if you threw in all the grass and the sticks and all the other stuff, because 50% of it never went through the system.
Well, the regulations that they have seem to be applying to the three cities, because they have no enforcement whatsoever. So for us to assume that people in Sharon's, people that are picking up trash in Sharon Center or Granger are not taking that to Summit County versus Medina County, because nobody's watching where it's going, there's no enforcement at all, is just silly on our part. So all of our dollars are paying them to run a service that is an inept at best.
Well, it's like a scam, though, I mean, almost. It's like you're buying this, but you're not really getting it. You really
Right.
we're getting something else, but it isn't just right now. This has been a long,
What's been going on
it's
for?
been 20 years. I
Yeah.
mean, this is a big process. In the beginning, it may have operated better, but, you know, we have a facility now that's sort of like a Flintstones era operation when it was up and running.
Right.
And now, my concern is people that are our own constituents are going to the trouble of doing the recycling, and it's not being recycled anyway. They might as well just not do that. Somebody needs to tell them, don't go out there, don't take your stuff out there and throw it in the bins.
I thought that Amy said that the bins that they have currently out at the CPF are, if you take your separated trash out there, it will be recycled.
I think,
He's saying.
It's not being separated, though. When you take it out,
Well, they have separate bins to put your,
they
and I don't know.
have
if it-
bins, but you just throw your glass, your plastic,
yeah,
your
everything, there's
paper.
not separate bins for paper, separate bin for, it's all in one.
That's a change under the new plan, they're calling it, and that's apparently what's going on around the country.
Single
It's
source.
called recycling and trash.
But is
So
that going somewhere?
Paper, glass, plastic, well, eventually, when they get this new plan in
Okay,
place.
but it's
and
not
put
going
these
anywhere
bins
now.
out, you know, I
Yeah,
don't
I'm
know.
not clear on that, Bill, to be
I was
honest with
gonna-
you, because there's been so much other dialogue and confusion, and mixed signals going out, so I don't know that exact answer, but I'll find out. But I don't think so, but I think that's part of them wanting to talk to the schools and then setting up these other bins, the 38 locations throughout the county, and getting single stream recycling being set up, 4 in Medina City, 7 in Brunswick, 5 in Medina City, 7 in Brunswick, and several in Wadsworth as well.
Now,
But,
I-
they did, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
they didn't give a timeline on when that was gonna happen, because I'm telling you, we are so close to
No, I
just
know.
calling Abitibi and having these things delivered. They keep showing up everywhere in the
Now, the
county.
timeline of the plan, though, Nino, is that this is the period, then it goes to the county commissioners.
Correct.
It goes to the EPA in September or October,
That's my understanding.
and it doesn't take
January
effect until
23rd.
January 2016 sometime.
But
Yeah,
I-
that's the track we're on,
That's
that
a
they
lot of
can't get
recyclables.
off of.
We are,
You know,
but they've
right
bid that already, they've already bid that 38 bin number to a contractor, and I don't know, I'll find out tomorrow morning if it's been awarded, but they've already bid it, so it's confusing again, because talk about the plan not being ratified till September and going by the end of the year, but then these other pieces and parts that they talk about are starting to go in place.
Well, and that's the first I've heard, only 5 locations, because we had one at every one of our schools, except for Garfield, because the Methodist Church
And that may
had
be
it.
separate, Jim, but for the city of Medina, they want us to have 5 locations in the city, and the schools may be a whole other. But I did find out there will not be money going back, they can't,
Okay, and see that, we
there
just
won't be
looked,
money.
our best
traded
year
for
was
that.
$6,000 that the schools made by having those at nine
I mentioned that
buildings.
to Amy.
And I saw the board, one of the board members sent it to Adam today and said, we gotta know if you're not gonna give us any money or share it with us,
why would we do it?
they're
It's
gonna,
better if they
they're
it
gonna
comes
go
from
to
them, but I was
Abitibi.
told no money exchange. And same thing, Bill, you had asked about Medina
They're just looking for
Recycling.
locations,
Right.
and it's
No.
based on 5,000 people.
Population.
You know?
Say that again, Mayor, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I said, I think if I remember her slide correctly, it's based on 5,000 people.
Correct.
So Brunswick gets 7 because they have 35,000
Yes.
people. We get 5 because we've got 26,000 people. Wadsworth gets even less. And then,
The
they're
townships
spreading them
are
out.
more,
Yeah, so it's based on population, not based on
Location.
location or willing locations. And there's no benefit at all
Now,
to the city or to the schools. Like if they put them in our parks, they're not gonna share anything with us, they're just gonna come dump them and have that there.
The benefit would be that it takes it out of the tonnage that we pay for.
Right.
I guess.
I'm
but-
saying no monetary.
But we get
benefit.
nothing in
Correct.
return.
Yes, sir.
Correct.
Even though
That's
they're
right.
getting Supposedly,
Some
they're
financial
getting,
incentive.
and so Medina Recycling is not one of the sites.
And so I can elaborate on that, Bill. If that were to take place, the county cannot enter an agreement with a private entity such as Medina Recycling. Their agreement would be through Medina City, and then we would have to do an agreement with Medina Recycling to place that container there. But there would be no money exchanged for what they gather and what they accumulate in the bin.
So who is actually not in compliance with who's violating the waste stream? Is it the person, if I take my paper someplace else and get nothing for it, which then makes it waste, am I violating that, or is the person who takes it violating that?
It's my understanding if the generator, you
Me.
being correct, you would not be in violation. If you go personally, we couldn't take it for you, if that makes sense.
No, I mean, if I take mine to to somebody that recycles, if I take my plastic to a place that recycles plastic in Akron, I'm not in compliance with the waste stream thing, because it's trash, because I'm getting no money. So am I the person who's not in compliance, or is the person taking it not in compliance?
He's saying if he fills his car up and takes it directly to recycle, drops it off, is he violating it, or does he have to put it at the curb, and once it's at the curb, if the truck comes and picks it up, and then they take it somewhere else? Are they violating it?
No, what I'm saying is, like with Medina Recycling, if I take my paper there,
Is it him or the guy?
is
taking
it
his
me, or
papers?
is it Medina Paper Recycling?
I think it's Medina Paper, in their opinion, and that's a question Amy should answer, Adam, but I think it's the recipient, not you as the generator, it's who's receiving it.
If the three cities are obligated to use CPF,
Well, everybody
By
is,
flow
just for
control.
clarification.
well, even the private haulers.
Everybody.
Supposed to.
Okay, but if the private haulers, which we know happens sometimes, goes directly to the landfill, what's their tipping fee?
The same.
They're not allowed to go directly to the
I know,
land.
he says they do anyways, but they still charge the township resident and/or the village the $61. But they only pay, I would assume, the landfill $25 to dump.
I think his point is it never makes it to the CPF.
Never makes
So
it
the
to-
CPF doesn't know anything about it.
Right.
So.
And the landfill.
They're still charging
so
you.
Company B is still going
Yeah.
over here.
But they're still charging you the county rate of 61. I don't think they're gonna give you a discount, because they can't give you a discount
I
saying,
see.
I'm gonna take it to the outside landfill, not take it to the CPF, so I'll give you a little bit of a deal.
But
I think they still base their rate on.
they're
the-
charging their customer on the higher.
Yeah, they're charging the customer the higher
yeah,
rate,
they're-
and they're
They're
taking
paying
it.
probably in the low 40s is the landfill rate, to answer your question.
Okay.
So yes, there's a little spread there.
Back to your question, Bill, this system's been in place for 20 years. There's a board that has Pat McNamara from Brunswick on it and other representatives. They have contracted for a long time with Envision.
Well, no, they're advisory only. Only the commissioners can contract or make any decision.
Right, but the board makes a recommendation to the commissioners. The
Right.
commissioners contract with Envision. Their
Correct.
relationship with Envision has been contentious. But the bottom line is this whole system has approved this the way it is and the way it has been for the last 15 to 20 years.
Do we know that, though? Do we know that the advisory board of the commissioners are doing what the advisory board is recommending?
We don't know that, but I think everybody believes that a lot more is being recycled.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think if these facts came out that not as much is being recycled, I think people would say, well, what do you mean? I thought that's why we had the CPF, is to get more recycling.
Well, I think two things. One is, we thought it was to get the recycling, and two was, we thought that it was the reason we were paying what we're paying, because we're paying for a certain, that's why I still don't understand why there's no penalty, there's nowhere to go with this if you've been, I mean, it's almost like fraud. If you say I'm doing 13% and you're doing 4%,
Yeah,
but I'm paying this fee because this recycling is supposed to be 13%, but 50% of what I take is going directly to a landfill. There's no recourse for that?
You gotta look at the numbers on how they came up with that 12 or 14 or 13%.
And it's probably worse. but
It's offset
well-
by composting,
Right.
the leaves, and that's where they
And
end
then
up,
they'll
I don't want to say
justify
skewing the numbers,
how they
but it's
got that
not-
number.
Right, they're not true hard pulled out tonnage from the belts, it's a wash. They're getting this waiver from here, they're getting this other recycling that's over here, they're counting all those numbers. That's why they counted on our leaves so much, where everyone else didn't have to take the
And
leaves.
even though it's not what, see, even though it's not meeting the intent perhaps of what was originally defined, it's been approved
Correct.
by all of the parties in the play.
And the ironic thing is, it was just approved today again by
This
all the
plan-
parties in play except for
This plan
Brunswick.
that they have has, what is it, a 60-day comment period?
Comment period's actually less, it's shorter.
It actually doesn't matter what anybody says during this comment period. They're gonna put this plan into place irrespective of comment, unless the three cities stand together and don't approve the plan.
Well, I mean, you know, what the mayor said, I mean, it makes sense, the 3 points that you made, you know, that we need to follow through on. But the sad part is the point I was trying to make with Medina Recycling is, if I took my newspaper to Medina Recycling, it got recycled. If you're concerned about recycling, it got recycled, and it costs the city nothing. If I throw that paper in the trash, I had a 50% chance that it would go to a landfill, and I had a 50% chance that it might go through the CPF, and what portion of that would actually then get recycled. And then they were told they were not allowed to take the paper because they were in violation of the waste stream.
Because they want credit for that amount that's going there, and that's.
Right, even though their cost was
Correct.
almost the exact, their cost to do it really wiped out any benefit that they got, but it took it out of the waste stream. You know, and I just came back from this place, I have a house in North Carolina, there's 325 people, and there your trash is free. And they have a recycling center, and they have all the bins set up, and everything's labeled, and your trash that's trash goes in one. And then they have a bin for everything else. And it's a town of 325 people. And that's what people were telling me yesterday when I was at church. They said, how is it that we have a county, you know, that's all these people, and we have all these, you know, and we can't figure this out? You know, this can't be figured out. We have this mess, and they see it as a mess. The people I try to say, it sounds like a mess.
I mean, people are recycling all around the world. I mean, you can research it online. I mean, there's communities, and I think it was brought up in one of the meetings, somebody threw out 90%, but the largest I saw was like 59%, you know, countries in Europe. I mean, there's states, I mean, everybody across the country, there's plenty of examples. I mean, it's not like we're trying to reinvent the wheel here. I mean, and
Well, there's countries that have pre-cycling, where companies are mandated to take back whatever that wrapper is. They have to take that back and recycle it. You don't even have to keep it. You don't have to do it. I mean, we're so far behind the curve, but the mayor's right. This needs to be aimed back where it belongs, which is with the county and not here. Because we don't seem, you know, we seem to be in handcuffs here. What can we do other than what we're doing to object?
That's it, that's all we can do.
And you certainly don't want to be on an advisory committee.
Well, that doesn't assist the solution of the problem.
No.
So is everybody up to date? Did you get that, Kevin?
We've been on this, I don't know why you're accusing us of that.
No.
But I think there's going to be more discussion because of the no vote, of course, because now it's imperative that they talk to us to get to turn to a yes vote. Otherwise, the plan fails, and all the work that they're doing the next 3 months would be for naught. So I think that we just have to continue, which we believe to be reasonable, and just want the results that all the constituents want.
right.
I don't think we're being adversarial, we're just being, I think, reasonable and realistic with respect to the demands of the constituents, not only the city constituents, but the county and constituents, including the township and the villages. They want the same thing we do. I don't think if you go to a township, they're gonna say, well, I want something different than you.
Right.
They're all, everybody, you know, globally probably wants to have recycling as much as they can because they understand the benefits of it, so.
And they, you know, we say 13%, I bet you the general public thinks that 90% of it's being recycled. That's why we have this
Right.
huge facility there. So
Right.
they found out that they weren't even doing the 13% that they were contracted to do.
Yeah, so we'll keep everybody up to date on that, but is there anything else that needs to come before finance? Hearing nothing, the meeting's adjourned.